Hi everyone, welcome to this afternoon's event. My name's Louis Garber. I'm Enterprise Coordinator at Greater Manchester Combined Authority. So my role is to help schools and colleges in Greater Manchester to develop their careers programmes and make sure that young people are getting access to up-to-date information about pathways and their options after school and college, but also to make sure that we're creating great content for older people who might be interested in taking on an apprenticeship as well, and kind of reskilling, retraining and looking at new opportunities through apprenticeships. So welcome to Virtual Apprenticeship Week, GM. It's actually a series of about 15 events over 10 days that we're delivering. And I'm delighted today to be delivering a session on higher and degree level apprenticeships. We've got a number of people today contributing to the event from University of Salford, from Manchester Metropolitan University. We've also got a degree apprentice as well from Create Construction, and a member of the SIPTech staff who are going to be talking about why they value kind of employing degree level apprenticeships and higher apprenticeships as well. Just going to give you a bit of a look at the programme that we've been delivering over the past few days. We started last Wednesday and we're going all the way through till Friday as well, showcasing loads and loads of different events, all promoting apprenticeships. We want to make sure that whoever's listening is aware that, you know, there are lots of apprenticeships opportunities out there. Obviously, in light of COVID-19, people might be a little bit conscious that some apprenticeships aren't as readily available, but actually there's still a huge amount of opportunity, and it's a really exciting pathway for lots of people. So if you received your A-level results or you're receiving your GCSE level results this week, I hope you've tuned in, and I hope that we can kind of give you a bit of insight into where apprenticeships can take you, especially those higher level apprenticeships and degree level apprenticeships, which we're going to really delve into today. There's going to be a bit of a Q&A session towards the back end of this event, so we're going to probably go through all the way till about 4 o'clock. I really would encourage you to ask questions. There's a Q&A function, hopefully, that you can see. It should be quite easy to kind of get your eyes on and ask any questions. Please do ask any questions that you want of the contributors we've got here from the University of Salford, from Manchester Metropolitan University, as well as the degree apprentice and the employer that we're working with as well on this event. For the first person I'm going to pass you over to is going to be Alice Rawlings from the University of Manchester. Alice is Marketing Executive for Degree Apprenticeships, and she's going to tell you exactly what a degree apprenticeship is.
Hello, I'm Alice Rawlings, like you said, from Manchester Metropolitan University, and I'm marketing exec for degree apprenticeships there. So I'm just going to give you a quick overview about what a degree apprenticeship is. So if I go to the next slide. The next slide. So degree apprenticeships are a relatively new type of programme offered by some universities, including Manchester Metropolitan University. I know I hadn't really heard of them before I applied for this job a couple of years ago, so I'm sure there's lots you'd like to know. We began offering them in 2015 when the government launched the scheme, and now work with 2,000 apprentices and 400 employers. Like other types of apprenticeships, you'll work full-time for an employer while also working part-time towards your degree or master's apprenticeship qualification. If you're mostly school leavers, you'll be looking at the degree aspect. You'll be paid a full-time wage and entitled to all the same benefits as the other employees at your organisation, so like holidays and things. We require that our employers pay at least £12,000 a year, which is great just out of school, but many people pay much more than this. Our apprentices report having pay rises each year or at the end of the course as well. A lot of people say that they get those. The university provider will work closely with your employer to ensure you're given time off from your job to attend university classes. These could be delivered one day a week or in blocks of time depending on the course you're studying, and it should say that in all the course information if you're looking online. So the next slide. Our programs, I'm sure a lot of programs are developed as brand new courses, not reworked versions of existing degree courses. We work closely with employers, professional bodies to make sure we're delivering exactly what the employers and the apprentices need. Many of our lecturers also continue to work in their industry, so we're constantly updating course content to make sure it's up to date and relevant. Next slide. Degree apprentices come from all walks of life, from all different backgrounds, of all different ages, of all different levels and types of qualification and experience. Manchester Met has some degree apprenticeships that are well suited for those just leaving high school or sixth form, and then others that are better suited for people who are already have some work experience. We found that it's really beneficial to have so many different types of people in the classroom, as everyone learns so much from each other. So degree apprenticeships at Manchester Met typically take around 4 years to complete. It will be slightly different in different places, so just check the course content wherever you're looking. A master's qualification is about 2 years. This is only a year longer than it takes to do a full-time degree, but you'll complete this course with a good few years of work experience under your belt too, so it's well worth the extra time. There are a huge number of benefits to undertaking a degree apprenticeship. These include graduating with no student debt. Your tuition fees are 100% paid for by your employer and by the government. You don't need to worry about how all this works, the employer will do that. You'll be paid a full-time salary when you study, as I mentioned earlier, at least £12,000 a year, but often more, sometimes in the 20s, so keep an eye out. You will earn a full bachelor's or master's degree when you successfully complete the course, exactly the same as any other student following a traditional route. It's not degree level or master's level, it is a degree or a master's. You'll graduate with years of quality work experience, giving you a competitive edge. As part of the apprenticeship, we encourage you to spend time in other parts of your organisation so you really get a good sense of how the business works and maybe even areas you'd like to work in the future. A lot of our apprentices do move around in the same employer. At Manchester Met, you'll be assigned a personal skills coach to support you and help you develop your skills in the workplace. You'll also have a dedicated workplace mentor who will support you with work-based learning. Again, look on the websites of the places that you're interested in to see what kind of support they offer as well. You'll have full access to fantastic campus services and facilities, including student support, 24/7 library, study areas, sports facilities, and much more. Again, check each university's website to see what's going to be available to you. Next slide, yeah. So we work with some of the UK's most prestigious organisations like AstraZeneca, Barclays, United Utilities, Bentley, IBM, Odeon, Asda, Matalan, loads more, over 400. We deliver 14 degree apprenticeship courses in management, digital, science, health and social care. The courses we offer vacancies to school leavers are Chartered Manager, Digital, Digital Marketer, Digital User Experience and Laboratory Science. You can do degree apprenticeships in loads of different areas, lots of different institutions, and you don't have to stay in Manchester to do it. But obviously, we'd love it if you did. You'll be getting paid, so you could move away or move out because you can afford to pay rent if you were looking forward to living somewhere else once you'd finished school. So Adele from Salford is going to go into a lot more detail about the courses on offer, so I will stop there. But I'll explain how to apply and entry criteria a bit later on, but I will hand back to Lewis for now.
Brilliant, thank you so much, Alice. That was really interesting. It's really interesting to hear about the opportunities for school leavers as well as kind of people leaving college and maybe older people looking at degree level apprenticeship as well. Okay, great. I'll introduce Adele Lockman from the University of Salford. Adele, if you wouldn't mind telling us a little bit about kind of the range of degree apprenticeships that are available in Greater Manchester. I know that they really do kind of stretch far and wide, so it'd be really good if you could give us a bit of a flavour of really what is available out there for people who are interested in a wide range of topics.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Adele Lockman and I'm the Apprenticeship Operations Manager at the University of Salford. And if you just want to move to the next slide, Louis, that'd be great. And I'm going to talk about the different subject areas that Alice has just touched upon as well, in terms of subjects and across Greater Manchester where you can do apprenticeships. So not every single programme that a university will do or will run will be a degree apprenticeship. They are very much aligned to where skills gaps are with employers. So in terms of areas that we offer, construction, so if you're looking at building surveying, quantity surveying, we've got Jack, who's coming on a bit later, who's one of our construction apprentices. We also do health programmes, so health and public services. So if you're looking at nursing or nursing associate, which is a higher level apprenticeship, so our nursing associate programme is a level between a healthcare assistant and a registered nurse. We also do, within public services, we'll do social work. We've got public health coming on board as well, which is going to be a big programme. Business, so as Alice kind of touched upon, we do chartered manager. We also do a number of programmes at master's level. So as we've touched upon, whether you're coming out of school or college, or whether you might have been within a business for a long time and are looking for that kind of next step or that progression within an organisation. Digital programmes, so at the University of Salford we're currently developing our digital programmes, and at Manchester Metropolitan they've obviously got the Digital and Technology Solutions programme. They're doing digital marketing and digital user experience programme, which is new this year. Engineering, a big programme that we're offering at the moment is our civil engineering programme, and we'll be branching into different areas in terms of engineering and really linking that engineering and construction going forward, especially post-COVID and post sort of the current situation. And then we offer some programmes within science. So we offer a big biomedical science programme, again, very much linked to currently what's been happening at the moment, as you can imagine, with a lot of the testing in labs and things like that. So there's a big biomedical science kind of element to that, and then also a chemistry programme as well. So there is a real mix of the undergraduate and postgraduate degree apprenticeships. And as Alice kind of touched upon, some of these can take between 3 or 4 years, some may take a bit longer depending on whether you're going to study full-time or part-time, and then master's programmes generally you're looking at around 2 years. So in terms of the current landscape, it's worth noting, and obviously we wanted to make reference to what's happening currently in terms of the current pandemic and looking at that kind of economic uncertainty, which is obviously is going to be there. There are going to be some redundancies. And you know, people looking in terms of the job market, and I think a lot of people are probably thinking that there might not be that many apprenticeships available at the moment, whereas actually we're seeing something completely different. So those opportunities are very much there. I think in terms of the health, if you're looking at what this has pushed into sort of the forefront in terms of health programmes, you've got public health, you've got nursing. It's really highlighted where those skills gaps are and where employers need to be pushing forward in terms of future-proofing their businesses to ensure that, you know, hopefully nothing like this will ever happen again, but if it did, they really do need to future-proof their business, and apprenticeships are a massive part of the national post-COVID recovery. Also looking at construction, you will have probably seen sort of the whole build back better messages. It really is build, build, build in terms of construction. You can't, you know, go into Manchester without seeing so many cranes across the city centre, and that's only going to increase. So that is a massive area that we're looking at the moment, and we're seeing a lot of new opportunities within that construction sector. Digital, as you can imagine, again, this has kind of been pushed forward in terms of Industry 4.0. Especially with everybody working from home, you might be looking more in terms of businesses with automation, robotics, etc. And that real kind of digital element to how people are working and how businesses need to upskill people and take on new staff who've got that kind of digital acumen and be able to drive that business forward in this very much digital era. So absolutely, we're not seeing any sort of decline in terms of apprenticeship opportunities available. We're really seeing that grow, and young people being part of this post-COVID recovery, which is really, really positive. And I'm now going to pass on to Jack, who is one of our construction apprentices.
Excellent, thanks. Thanks, Adele. So yeah, I'd like to introduce Jack, who is from Create Construction, an apprentice through the University of Salford. So Jack, if you wouldn't mind telling us a little bit about your experiences as a degree apprentice, that would be great.
Yeah, thanks, Louis. Okay, so I started my degree apprentice journey back in 2016, as Adele said, with the University of Salford. I was part of the first cohort to work and kind of enroll on the programme. Again, it was something I didn't know much about, as Alice touched upon earlier. It was a brand new programme, brand new system, where the university looked to link with the employers. So the company that I work for, Create Construction, were really kind of pro apprenticeships, pro education, keeping me in education whilst working, which was key for my development personally and for the business in the future. So yeah, I started on the quantity surveying degree apprenticeship back in 2016. I graduated from the University of Salford last year, which was obviously really pleasing for myself. Managed to see out the programme, and positively at that. I had a really good, pleasant experience there, and it has benefited me in the long run. I'm now working full time for the same company, and the things that I did learn at the university have definitely kind of passed on to my day-to-day working life. So really, managing your day-to-day expectations, which is a big one, enrolling on a degree apprenticeship. I wouldn't say that it's easy, and I wouldn't say anything negative about the programme either. I think you've got to really be able to manage your time effectively, because your employer, you're there 4 days normally a week to provide a service to the business, and that is their priority. The one day you get at university, you've got to really kind of take a firm grip of, so you've got to put your hours in on that day and also in your spare time. So there is it is time consuming, it is time demanding, but yeah, it's really rewarding come the end. Have you got anything else there, Louis?
Yeah, nice. So the most challenging aspect, do you think, is kind of the organisation side of things, and
absolutely, yeah.
Getting all your ducks in a row while you are a degree apprentice. I guess there's so much you're balancing. So what do you want to give us an idea of the kind of things that you have to balance as a degree apprentice? Obviously, you've got you'll have coursework, you'll have your job actually in the employer. What are the things how many plates would you say you have to spin at any one time?
Yeah, I think that's accurate. So as Alice touched upon, with your coursework, with your exams, it is a traditional degree as such at the university. Your work, the volume of work is exactly the same. It's identical to the traditional programme. So nothing shortcutted for you. You've got to put the same amount of hours into your revision, your coursework, your exams all the time. So in your spare time, and ultimately, although you're starting at the company, if you're in the same position as I was as a trainee, progressing as an assistant and then into a full-time role, the more experienced you become in your role, the more workload and the more intense your day-to-day life at work becomes whilst your university is still progressing. So obviously, the further you go into the programme, believe it or not, the more work you start to get from both the university and your employer, which is good because there becomes a level of trust from your employer that you're progressing in your job, and then obviously your work and the university. It's the closer you get to the end, is the closer you get to your degree classification, which is good.
That's really interesting, Jack. So when you kind of compare maybe going to university and just traditionally kind of just studying a course, and you've got maybe 3 years where that's all you do. You study that course, you've got your exams, you've got your coursework. Yeah. Why would you choose a degree apprentice? Why did you choose to work at the same time and work while you're studying? Can you kind of talk about what you think the main differences are? Obviously, you said that you kind of get the same amount of work from university. It is a degree, of course, after all. So also working as well. What's kind of the difference, or maybe at the end of it, what are the benefits of doing a degree apprenticeship? So working at the same time as studying.
Yeah, it's got to be the financial element, hasn't it? From both earning that full-time salary whilst you're in education, and also from the educational point of view, it's the funding. Obviously, I took full advantage of using my employer's funding to gain a free degree classification, which is a massive bonus to me, coming out with no student debt, and also building some financial backing to myself. So being able to earn a full-time salary, being able to create some substantial savings whilst you work, and also whilst you're in education. So you're not only coming out with no debt, but you're also coming out with, hopefully, if you're not a big spender, money in the bank.
And experience on the job as well.
That's it. It's when you leave university, you're not coming into an industry what you don't know anything about. You've been live. You've been on, for example, in my position, I'm based on site. I'm based in the office, working around professionals on a day-to-day basis, and I've been used to that since I started university. Something that going down that traditional program you're not really exposed to. You get put in that position when you leave university, and it's kind of like I can imagine you could become very starstruck by just being in the limelight straight away and not being able to adapt to working environment from being education for so long. So that's something I had a nice balance of all the way through my education, really.
Brilliant. We've actually had a question on exams, and
yeah.
What do the exams look like when in a degree apprenticeship? Obviously, the question is, do you have any exams? Now we know that you do have exams, but how often do you have them? Is it the exact same as someone who's going to university and not doing an apprenticeship? What does that look like?
So my degree route was also slightly different in terms of the quantity surveying degree was initially 5 years before I started at university. So it was a prolonged degree where you were there on a part-time basis for 5 years, which included obviously finishing for summer, for Easter, obtaining them school holidays, if you like. So I kind of trialed a new degree, which was instead of finishing in the traditional public holiday and the school holidays, we decided to go right through. So we carried on education right through the summer holidays. So it was condensed from 5 years to 3. So in terms of exams, it was first year and second year, you don't actually have any exams. It's your third year, you start to pick up exams along with your dissertation. It's mainly, I don't quote me statistically, I'm sure Adele can pick up on it, but I'm sure we were roughly about 80% coursework. So like I say, there was only certain modules where you will pick up on 1 or 2 exams. But again, if you obviously you've done GCSEs, if you've done A levels, identical scenario in terms of your exam. It shouldn't look any different. It shouldn't be too daunting. And then the majority of your marked assignments are coursework, which is good.
Brilliant, thanks, Jack. Just before we go on to Thomas, who's going to give us a bit of an employer perspective, Adele, I just wondered if you had any comments to make on kind of what exams look like. Does it differ from the kind of degree apprenticeship that Jack's doing to other apprenticeships, or is that quite a similar story?
Yeah, so it depends on the particular programme, but yeah, a lot of the apprenticeships, especially in the first couple of years, will be looking at that coursework and that work-based learning. So they're always using something from the workplace that they're working on, whatever project that is, to inform their coursework. So it really is those work-based projects. So obviously, if you're doing that already in the workplace, that, you know, it's massively helping in terms of having that project to do for your coursework. Yeah, so slightly different for different programmes, but mainly that's how it works. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. So I'm going to bring in Thomas Markey now from Siptex. Thomas, if you wouldn't mind just giving us a bit of background on you and your role and Siptex as well. And it'd be great if you could give us an idea of why you value degree apprenticeships and degree apprentices, why you employ them, and just kind of get your perspective on degree apprenticeships in general.
Sure, thank you. Hi, everybody. So I'm Thomas. I work for an organisation called Siptex. Siptex are a Manchester-based cloud communications company. My role within Siptex is head of operations, so I have a lot of involvement with the recruitment aspect of the business. What I want to do in my sort of slot is just give you a story about 2 very successful degree apprentices who joined our organisation 3 years ago. So sadly, they couldn't be here today with me, but they do know that I appreciate their contribution and value that they add to the organisation a lot. And they're called Sina and Liz. So Sina and Liz are 2 very successful degree apprentices. They joined our organisation 3 years ago. Sina opted to do a software engineering pathway, and Liz opted to do a cybersecurity pathway. Sina and Liz are agile, they're nimble, they are bright, they are hard workers, they contribute and they thrive within the organisation that we have created for them, which largely has been driven by the relationship that we have with Manchester Metropolitan University. Now, don't get me wrong, I've just used some adjectives that are very positive. The degree apprenticeship route isn't for everybody. You know, it does require you to ultimately put in the hard work. But if you're prepared to put in the hard work, you will reap the reward. I can assure you that the reward will be fantastic. You will get regular performance reviews. Obviously, I can't speak for all employers, but we at Siptex have a culture where good work is rewarded. And that's not just necessarily in salary increases, that's with things like time off, funding and investing in extracurricular activities or promotions. So for example, Liz recently is now progressed into a more senior DevOps engineer role because Liz has proven that, you know, she's fit into the organisation and that she's picked up and grabbed the job at hand. Now, if I just compare and contrast a conventional traditional recruitment method with the degree apprenticeship model, I'd be interested for you guys to give me your view on which one you would pick. So with a traditional recruitment method, you are typically going to a recruitment agency with your job spec and your requirement, maybe your salary bracket. The recruiter, whether they're good or bad, will potentially send you 30 CVs of different people to choose from. Typically, you would then list that down to say maybe 10 candidates. You would have to call each candidate one by one, looking at the CV, the covering letter, and then you would probably look to interview maybe 4 or 5 of those 10 candidates. Typically, people who are looking for roles when, you know, once they've got the degrees and things like that, especially if we look at a conventional model, typically they'll probably stay with an organisation on average about 2 to 3 years. I was actually looking at some statistics recently, and that was the average amount of years that an employee stays at an organisation. Now, because Siptex is quite a small organisation, it's quite, when you recruit someone on the cost to hire through a conventional recruitment method, you know, when you take on somebody new to join your organisation, there's a lot of effort and time that has to be put into that person and that individual. And then when that individual then leaves, it can be quite damaging in some ways because they've built processes and they're becoming grind in that organisation. If I take the MMU, well, Manchester Metropolitan University degree apprenticeship route, it's a completely different process. And it's a process really that's paved the way for Siptex going forward into the future. Because when we look at candidates, we're not getting all those CVs. We don't even look at people's CVs really when we run our workshop assessments when we're taking on candidates, because we know that young people who typically look at the degree apprenticeship route don't necessarily have everything to put on a CV. So what we run is workshops where we'll get everybody together. So for example, we're running 2 next week because we're actually taking on another 2 additional degree apprentices in a UX developer and digital marketeer. And we will run individual and group tasks. And that way we get to find out how people work, how people plan their time, organise their time, structure the days, all those kinds of different things that you can't usually get from a normal CV. And typically that whoever we pick, whoever's successful from us running those workshops, will then typically stay with the organisation for much longer than a conventional recruitment method. You know, they buy into the organisation, and it's not just a member of staff, it's a much closer bond with that member of staff. I know that sounds a bit cheesy, but if I look at, for example, the relationship that we have with Sina and Liz, I know that they're both going to stay at Siptex when their degree apprenticeship leaves, because they've already told me. You know, ultimately we end up with a happier employee because they feel that we've invested in them as individuals. So in terms of the different methods for recruiting to staff, we definitely prefer the degree apprenticeship route. As I say, you know, we feel that we're investing in a person who is going to stay with the organisation for a lot longer than a typical member of staff would be. And overall, you know, that impacts the business in a good way, because we have someone who is going to be there as the business scales and you know, becomes better. So if anyone's got any questions, that's my contribution to today's talk. And I think there is just one final thing that I need to cover off, is off the job training. So typically the apprentice will get 20% off the job for training, and that will also be for things like going to the university. That really does mix things up and change things, because it means that you're not always in the office, so you're not always learning. You're mixing with different people, you're using the university resources, you're networking with other people that are doing your pathway as well. So it's developing your social skills, your networking skills. You're not just stuck in the office. You're getting out there, and also that gives some relief to the employer as well, because as a small organisation, you only have so much finite time to devote to developing staff. And again, the relationship that we've got with Manchester Metropolitan University and the support that we've had as an employer has been absolutely fantastic. We've had a named individual that we've been able to deal with. The apprentices themselves have a work-based coach that they can deal with as well, who's there for when there's any problems. So yeah, that's my contribution to today's talk.
That's really great. Thanks so much, Thomas. That was so interesting. I think that's really interesting, and I'm sure Jack might confirm it as well. But that 20% off the job, it is an opportunity for that degree apprentice to kind of network and enter that university life, because it is a degree apprenticeship being offered by a university. So I think it's really important for you to kind of note that it isn't, yes, you're working and you're in the office, but there is that opportunity to go to university and to experience that side of things as well, which I think obviously is a huge attraction. Thanks so much, Thomas. We'll see if some questions come through by the end of the event. But I think it'd be great if we could just go on to Alice, bring Alice back, who's going to kind of talk a little bit more about that application process. So actually, Thomas touched on it there, but it'd be really great to hear from Alice about what the entry requirements are and the application process for a degree apprentice coming in.
And of course there are so many different organisations out there. That Thomas's example is just one. There are a few different ways you might be interviewed and things, so I'll go on to those now. So the first slide, please. So applying for degree apprenticeships is very different from applying for a traditional university degree course. As you know, you apply for a full-time degree through UCAS, but with degree apprenticeships, you apply directly to the employer who's advertising the vacancy. Like Thomas said, you will spend the majority of your time with your employer, and they hope you'll stay there after you graduate. Thomas, you've just highlighted everything I wanted to say. So it's important that it's the employer that selects the candidates and carries out the interview however they want to do that, and offers the successful person the job. They'll check your qualifications to make sure you meet entry criteria for the degree apprenticeship as well, and I'll explain about those in a sec. So for the next slide, I would like to say at this point that we strongly urge you to apply for full-time traditional university places through UCAS as well as applying for degree apprenticeships. This is because we can't always guarantee that you'll be successful in gaining a degree apprenticeship placement, so you have to have an alternative option. There are more applicants for degree apprenticeships than there are places available, so unfortunately not everyone who wants one will get one. The number of places is growing every year though, so do keep trying. The best thing to do is to spend the summer and the autumn term of your last year of school or college using the resources and the support the school are offering you to put together the strongest UCAS application form you can. This includes spending plenty of time in your personal statement, and I'll get back to why I'm pushing this so hard in a second. Then after that's been submitted, concentrate on applying for degree apprenticeships. So vacancies for these, I guess Salford find this too, is that they tend to be available any time between like January and July, even later now given the COVID situation. So don't forget that employers are advertising to fill gaps in their organisation, so don't necessarily know about their requirements too far ahead of the September start. So they might advertise in January but not start till September of that year, so it's a long time to be planning ahead. So the next slide. So there isn't one big comprehensive list of degree apprenticeship vacancies, unfortunately, but a good place to start is the National Apprenticeship Service website. We also list all of our vacancies on the Manchester Met website. You can register to receive email alerts from us when they become available. We currently have a digital marketer and user experience vacancies from Siptex, as Thomas said, they're interviewing next week, and Tote on our website at the moment, and they come in as and when we put them up as soon as we can. There's also another great opportunity to hear some other great sites to look at are gmacs.co.uk, the Apprenticeship Guide, Indeed, Not Going to Uni, Prospects, Student Ladder, Amazing Apprenticeships, or even the jobs or careers pages of some employers that you'd like to work for. Another great opportunity to hear about vacancies is our open days. Again, if you register for the alerts, we'll let you know about when they are. We have stands and talks for all our courses, but also stands for our employers. So many of them will come along to exhibit, and so you'll be able to chat to them about their business and the jobs they have available. You may also be the same people that conduct the interviews, so it'll be a really good time to make a good first impression. So we're currently working on virtual versions of these events, a bit like this, so you won't miss out this year, and we'll get in touch with you about how that's going to work when we've worked all that out for next year. So the next slide. So entry requirements will vary slightly from university and from course to course, but typically at Manchester Met and Salford, we require applicants to have 104 UCAS points, which is equivalent to BCC or Distinction Merit, and English and Maths GCSE 8 to C or 9 to 4, depending on when you took them. So, right. What does the application process look like? So you are essentially applying for a job, so the steps are quite similar. So first one is apply. Once you've found the position you want to apply for, you'll need to complete the online form or submit your CV or cover letter, whatever they're asking for. Again, Siptex sound like they're super understanding that you might not have a huge amount to put on your CV when you're 18 years old, and they look at applicants in different ways as well, so do look out for that. So remember when I said to make sure you spend time putting together a strong UCAS application and personal statement? Well, you can use lots of the information you've already pulled together in that for your degree apprenticeship job applications, such as the qualifications, the years you took certain exams, probably even whole paragraphs from your personal statement. So it really is worth spending a good long time, especially when you've got support from the school you're in, to write those really strong statements and get those exam lists in order. So the next step would be interview. So if the employer, back a slide, if the employer likes the look of your application, then you'll be offered either a face-to-face or telephone interview, and sometimes you might have a telephone interview before an in-person interview. The best way to work through this, best way to prepare for this is to work through the job description and think of examples of how you meet the criteria. So in your interview, make sure you give some context to the situation, the task you're undertaking, what you did and why and how you did it, and the results. And these don't have to be examples from a current or previous job, as we don't always expect you to have one. So this could be from extracurricular activities at school, outside school, for having positions of responsibility at school, or volunteer work, anything like that, coaching a sports team, anything like that. So make sure you research the company you're interviewing with and prepare any questions you may have for them as well. That sounds like makes it sound like you're really interested. You may also have to take a test or do what's called an in-tray exercise, and they'll tell you what that is before you arrive. Or attend something called an assessment centre. Again, that's what Thomas from Siptex was talking about, where you have to carry out a series of tasks or activities in groups with other applicants or alone, and they assess you based on that. So the last middle step, get the job. If you're successful and you're offered the job, you'll sign a contract with your employer setting out the terms of the apprenticeship. Then you enrol with the training provider. So the employer will let the training provider or the university know that they've filled their position, and the university will be in contact with you to complete their application form. I'm sure Salford is similar to this. This will be much shorter than a UCAS application form, as it's just for the university to ensure that they've got all your information, so they can enrol you on the programme. They'll also double check the entry criteria for the course has been met. But like I said, the employer will be doing this too, and they'll be talking to us about the candidates, maybe even before they've appointed as well, to make sure we're all on the same page with who they've chosen. And then you start. So apprenticeships usually start with an induction week. We will get an introduction to the course and meet fellow apprentices. So for this year, we're doing it a little bit online and a little bit in the university. Again, we're working out how we can do that because we do want to meet them in person. The vast majority of our courses start in September, but some start in January and March, and we don't always run to university terms. Start dates should be clear on the job adverts, so just keep an eye on that. If you'd like more information, there's lots of more on our website, Salford's website, UCAS website, National Apprenticeship Service. There's loads out there. If you register for the Manchester Met Degree Apprenticeships alert, will keep you in the loop. I think now it's time for Q&As, so feel free to ask questions about anything that we've talked about today.
Yeah, thank you so much, Alice. That was so interesting. Yeah, sorry, I secretly messaged Alice through that and probably chucked her off a little bit by saying mention gmax.co.uk because GMAX is actually the website that we're hosting these calls from, and Virtual Apprenticeship Week, the full programme is on GMAX, and it's also somewhere that you can find out about the latest apprenticeship opportunities within Greater Manchester, so I'd really recommend you take a look at that as well. While you were talking about that Alice, we actually had a question through from someone saying that how do they access UCAS? They're not sure how to apply on it. So I don't know if you could just talk a little bit about UCAS and how someone might be able to use it.
Yeah, so is this person not at school? If they were at school, your head of sixth form or somebody should have introduced you to UCAS, or they will, maybe your GCSE and you don't know yet. But your teachers or your tutor or I had a head of destinations at my school, will introduce you to the UCAS website. They'll give you a login. Usually you need like an institution code so the UCAS know where you've come from. So this is all just to apply for the regular degree programs, not degree apprenticeships. Don't worry about that. But you should be able to do it through your school. If you've left school and want to apply late, which is actually what I did, you can do it as an independent candidate. You would just go to ucas.com and there would be a register button and you would follow the steps. It was a long time ago I did that, but there'll definitely be people at your school or college, sixth form, that will help you apply when it's the right time to do so.
Definitely good advice. If in doubt, ask someone at college or school and they'll definitely have the answer for you, whether it's a tutor or a careers advisor. But yeah, the answer's out there, but hopefully Alice was able to kind of add a bit of colour to that. So back to degree apprenticeships, we got a really good question through. It might be a really good one for maybe Jack to comment on his experience, and then maybe for Adele to talk about. But considering it is an apprenticeship, how are the classes and support sessions scheduled by the university, seeing as apprentices can only attend once a week? How does that work? Jack, do you want to kind of talk a little bit about how it works for you?
Yeah, so it's pretty well scheduled, really. So your university day as such will be kind of split from 9 right through till 5 or 6 in the evening. So you've got a really full, intense day. Not disregarding the work that you get, but you'll have normally 2 lectures and 2 what they call seminars. So your lectures are obviously you're absorbing information from the lecturer, taking notes, learning about the module, and then your seminar is more of an engaging interaction with the lecturer. So you'll work in small groups and the lecturer will spend time running through assignments, running through courseworks and exams, just making sure you have a clearer understanding, really. So that's kind of how the support is structured. Your lectures run for a prolonged number of weeks, whether it be 6 or 12 weeks, depending on the size of the module. Once that module is finished and you've got normally 2 or 3 weeks to hand in your submission. That is when your lecture periods for the following weeks will go from lectures to just support sessions. So you can go into the university. You might not have official lectures, but your lecturer will be in the room for argument's sake 2 hours for each lecture, and they'll happily sit and go through any queries or kind of troubles you may be having with the assignment and kind of help out that way. So I wouldn't necessarily worry about only being in the university once a week. I think the duration of each module gives you kind of a clear pathway in terms of support, really, which is good.
Brilliant, thanks, Jack. Adele, would you have anything to add there, or do you think Jack's covered it?
Yeah, Jack's covered most of it. The only other thing I would add is that there are also a minimum of quarterly reviews that you have. So you'll have an employer-linked tutor. It's what we call them. Manchester Metropolitan may call them something different, but this is someone from the university who will come out on a regular basis and meet with the apprentice, with the employer, and we'll sit down in a sort of tripartite review meeting, and we'll look at progress, we'll look at any issues, we'll make sure that you're getting the time for off the job. So this is another really great way to raise any issues or any concerns that, you know, the apprentice or the employer might be having, or just if you need that extra support and need signposting to any of the university support services or anything like that, it can be picked up with one of those review meetings and then taken back to the university and then pushed forward in terms of that route as well.
Brilliant, thanks. There was a question from before just regarding kind of apprenticeships and COVID-19. This was something that was asked through an Eventbrite registration. So we had about 200 young people and teachers and other people who were interested in apprenticeships kind of register for updates for Virtual Apprenticeship Week. So we had loads of questions, and one of those was from Miles from UTC at Media City, who did want to know, do you expect more apprenticeships to be created after kind of COVID-19 has become a bit more history than the present time? Do you think there'll be more opportunities building?
Yeah, absolutely. And as I kind of touched upon when I was talking in my session around those different areas, especially within, you know, looking at your health and construction, employers are absolutely going to be looking to those cost-effective ways to plug those skills gaps within organisations, and apprenticeships being one of those. There are a number of incentives that are already there in terms of employers taking on apprentices, but a lot of people will have seen, obviously, the new government announcements about employer incentives for taking on new young people and new apprentices. So they're actually incentives available for them to take on these new people specifically into apprenticeship roles. So it's very much government backed in terms of this apprenticeship growth, in terms of helping sort of post-COVID. Absolutely. So I think we will see a lot more employers engaging and a lot more sort of different programs coming on board as well. Yeah.
Brilliant, thanks so much, Adele. We're coming towards the end of the session now. I think the questions have kind of slowed down a bit from our attendees. There was a final question there, just I guess. Actually, we've just got a question in at the end. Is it common to have older adults applying for apprenticeships due to a career change? Will their prior degree qualifications still be eligible to apply for an apprenticeship, for example, an accredited engineering degree obtained 10 years ago? Who's best placed to kind of talk about kind of going after a degree apprenticeship if you've already got a degree?
I don't mind picking that one up. So obviously, people who've already got, we do see a lot of career changes, yeah, or people who've been working for a long time. Absolutely, if you've already got a degree, you can still do a degree apprenticeship, as long as the degree isn't exactly the same subject area as a degree apprenticeship you're wanting to do. We also look at a lot of prior learning and those prior qualifications. So if you've got a relevant degree in some sort of area or any other sort of qualification, it may be that you could come and join the programme at a later year. So you wouldn't have to do, you know, potentially you wouldn't have to do year one, you drop in at year two and just do year 2 and 3. So absolutely, I'd imagine at Manchester Metropolitan it's the same. It's prior learning is definitely looked at in terms of qualifications, but also in terms of the amount of experience that someone's had in an organisation. If someone's got a lot of experience, 10, 20 years of working in an engineering company, that experience that they've had with that employer will be looked at as well, and then mapped against the programme to see what is it that you've already done, so that you're not sort of doubling up in terms of what you already know or what experience you've already got. Yeah.
Brilliant, thanks so much, Adele. I think that's going to wrap it up for today's event. Hopefully you've found out a lot more about high and degree level apprenticeships. I know I have. It's an amazing opportunity for individuals who want to gain that amazing qualification while getting that experience on the job and earning at the same time. It's an incredible opportunity. I really would encourage you all to go away and have a look at it and research it more if it's something that you think you might be interested in. I just want to show you the rest of Virtual Apprenticeship Week's programmes. So we've got loads more events coming up for the rest of the week. Tomorrow we've got a couple of events actually. We've got a quick snippet from the Juice Academy, who can talk about the opportunities for their digital marketing for school leavers. So if you're interested in a career in digital marketing on social media, I'd tune into that and find out a little bit more about the Juice Academy. Towards the end of tomorrow, at about 6 o'clock, we've got a session for parents and carers. So if you are interested, if you're at school or you're at college, but your parents are being a little bit kind of blocking it a little bit, or they're not quite sure about that pathway, I'd get them to sign up for that and tune in, because it'll be really helpful for anyone who's kind of thinking about supporting their child, choosing an apprenticeship or university or a different pathway. That'd be really helpful to just kind of give you some more information on apprenticeships in general. But yeah, we've got some great opportunities to hear from GCHQ and some other employers as well. Certainly on Friday, we've got a session on where the jobs will be. So talking kind of a little bit, touching on what Adele said earlier on about where jobs might be after COVID and what might be a sensible apprenticeship to choose and what sector. That should be a really, really interesting session, just to give everybody an idea of what the future holds, really. So thank you so much for attending. You can find all of those events on gmax.co.uk. That is the Greater Manchester Apprenticeship and Career Service. There's tons of information on that website for anybody who lives in Greater Manchester, who's thinking about their next steps after school, college, or even someone who's just trying to find out what opportunities there are out there in terms of education. It's a great place to go for Greater Manchester residents to understand what next steps are available to them. So thank you to everybody for kind of taking part in this session. Thanks to Adele and Alice and Jack and Thomas for saying their piece. It was really interesting to hear from a degree apprentice from an employer, and the value that both the employer and Jack feel about degree apprenticeships. And of course, Alice and Adele from the universities. It's great to have you, and thank you so much, and hope to see you tomorrow.
Thanks.